you are obsessive with horror, you probably enjoy watching entrails sprawling across the screen and characters being slashed to ribbons. But in a way, watching a horror movie to check out the blood and guts can be paradoxical. If the gore is underwhelming, you feel like you got ripped off. But if the gushing wounds, dismemberment and decapitations are totally convincing, you can't help shielding your eyes and retching in disgust. So with that in mind, I'm Ellie with What Culture, here with the 10 hardest to watch recent horror movie scenes. Number 10. Face peel in Level 16. Level 16 follows a group of beautiful teenage girls who are kept in a secret lab under the impression they are to be adopted. The facilitators order the teens to wash thoroughly and care for their skin to give them a better chance of being selected. But as suspicions increase, two of the girls, Sophie and Vivian, investigate the facility, causing them to stumble upon the horrifying truth. The building they reside in isn't an adoption clinic. It's a rejuvenation centre where the higher-ups sell the girls' beautiful skin to the highest bidder to look young. Even though this transplant is obviously fatal to the unknowing donor, the buyers believe this is a small price to pay to stay youthful. As haunting as this revelation is for Sophie and Vivian, how they find out is all the more disturbing. While exploring a morgue, the pair unzip a body bag only to find their deceased friend Rita inside with her skin peeled off from head to toe. This shot lasts less than a second, but it's immediately seared into the viewer's mind more than any other image in the entire movie. Nasty. Number 9. Glass in foot in Revenge. Gore is often more effective when utilised sparingly, especially when the filmmakers need to hide ropey practical effects and prosthetics. If you see a shot of a chopped off head or a character with his innards dangling out for a split second, your eye won't register how fake it may look. But there are some filmmakers that go in the opposite direction, by lingering on every gory shot to emphasise what the characters are enduring. This philosophy is demonstrated near the end of Revenge, where our heroine tricks her pursuer Stan into stepping on a piece of glass. After yelping in pain, Stan plucks the shard out of his foot before continuing the chase. Now when you phrase it like that, the scene sounds pretty simple. But this moment is unbearable to watch since it's so long. If this shot lasted 5 seconds, it would still make you feel uneasy. But since you have to watch Stan burrow his fingers into his gushing wound for nearly 2 minutes, it's borderline unwatchable. The foot is obviously a prop, but you get totally invested due to the realistic squelching sounds and the facial contortions of the actor. Number 8. Goodbye testicles in Porno. If horror is your bread and butter, you can build up a tolerance to the most excessive violence. You may have watched the entire Saw series without batting an eyelid. You might not think The Exorcist is scary at all. The bloodshed in The Evil Dead may have been frightening at one point, but now you may find it hilarious. But as the comedy horror Porno proves, everyone feels queasy when they watch gore revolving around the reproductive organs. In this 2019 film, 5 teenagers mess around in a movie theatre, which causes them to accidentally awaken a succubus. Even though each of the demoness's victims meet a terrible fate, nobody gets it worse than Jeff. While he lunges at her, the succubus uses her powers to make Jeff's testicles burst open. Sadly, it gets worse. To try and save Jeff, his friends create a tourniquet and tighten it around his dismembered nether regions. Although most gore isn't as bad as you'd think, watching a group of teenagers attempting to fix their friends' eviscerated balls is exactly as horrific as it sounds. Number 7. Pulling fingers off in Spiral. Spiral was Chris Rock's attempt to reinvent the Saw franchise, which has been in a downward, spiral for years. He may have an avid passion for Lee Whannell and James Wan's original Saw, but that doesn't change the fact that Spiral was a misfire that has little chance of reigniting interest in the series. Having said that, the soft reboot has its fair share of creatively disgusting sequences. One of Jigsaw's devices, which is guaranteed to be imprinted on viewers' minds, is the finger trap. The victim, Detective Finch, is stuck in a bathtub which is gradually filling with water. If the water reaches the exposed wires by the edge of the tub, he'll be cooked alive. By biting down on a mouthpiece, Finch activates a machine to pull off his fingers, which are attached to the wire cable. As is custom in the Saw series, Finch doesn't make it in time, causing him to be shocked to death. Even though Finch failed Jigsaw's test, he really tried. He may be a murderer, but you still feel bad watching him doing his best to power through the pain while his fingers snap off one by one. Number 6. Drill through the skull in Apostle. Apostle centres around a drifter who gets entangled with a dangerous cult while searching for his sister. This underrated horror drama was praised for its slow burn tension, palpable atmosphere, and Dan Stevens' stellar performance. But if you ask anyone what they remember most, it's got to be the drill sequence. When the cult leader Quinn frames one of his subjects, Jeremy, for a crime he didn't commit, he sentences him to death. After strapping Jeremy to a wooden stand with his head at a fixed point, Quinn uses a crank to wind a rusty drill through his cranium. Although the idea of having a drill bore through one's skull sounds unbearable, it's not the act itself that leaves viewers feeling sickly. Quinn moves the device ever so slowly, making Jeremy's inevitable demise so much worse to behold. Director Gareth Evans researched lesser-known medieval torture methods while compiling the script, hoping to incorporate a torture device into the story that didn't come across as cliched. Well, there's no question. Evans succeeded, since the drill scene is certain to stick with viewers for all the wrong reasons. Number 5. Degloving in Gerald's Game. In Gerald's Game, Jessie and her husband head to a remote cabin to spice up their sex life after suffering marital problems. After Gerald handcuffs his wife to the bed, he suffers a lethal heart attack. Since no one knows where they are, Jessie realises she'll die if she doesn't break free. As interesting as the premise is, this Stephen King adaptation could be pretty boring, considering most of the plot revolves around one character wriggling on a bed. But thanks to Mike Flanagan's direction and Carla Gugino's career-best performance, Gerald's Game is never dull. Unsurprisingly, the most riveting moment, as well as the grossest, is the way Jessie escapes. After shattering a glass, our heroine deliberately slashes her wrists with the shard. She then rips the skin off her hand so it's thin enough to squeeze through the cuff. As convincing as the hand prosthetic looks, it's Gugino's performance that makes viewers avert their eyes. As horrible as it is to watch her hand become nothing more than a flap of loose skin, it's the way Gugino writhes in agony that makes viewers wince. Number 4. Devoured Head in Hereditary. In Hereditary, miniature artist Annie believes the tension in her family can be put to rest after her hostile mother passes away. Just as Annie begins to deal with her grief, she's met with another far more gruesome tragedy. After her daughter Charlie eats nuts at a party, she goes into anaphylactic shock. As her brother Peter drives her to a hospital, Charlie has difficulty breathing, urging her to put her head out of the window. When Peter swerves to avoid hitting a deer, Charlie collides with a telephone pole. As horrific as this is, the viewer doesn't know the severity of Charlie's injury until the next scene. We don't know if she broke her neck. We aren't even sure if she's alive or not. Even when Annie finds Charlie in the back of the car the following morning and we hear her wailing like a banshee, we're still not ready for what we're about to see. After hearing Annie screeching from the depths of her soul, we cut to the shot of Charlie's decapitated head, half eaten by ants. It's fair to say anyone who watched Hereditary didn't sleep much that same night, purely from this image. Number 3. Splat in Midsommar. In Midsommar, Dani is left devastated by her family's death, which puts a massive strain on her relationship with her boyfriend Christian. Terrified of being left alone, she urges Christian to allow her to join him on his midsummer trip to Sweden, oblivious that they are staying at a cult commune. When the community gather in front of a cliffside with an elderly couple at the top, Dani has no idea what they're about to witness. To Dani's horror, she watches the woman leap off, smashing her skull on a menhir. The man then jumps off but doesn't die immediately, forcing the community members to put him out of his misery by smashing his head with a hammer. In an odd way, this scene shouldn't work. As soon as the elders make their way up the cliff, the viewers know exactly what's coming. But the entire sequence is set up so well and shot so beautifully, you can't help being enraptured by what is to come. Even though we knew the pair were marching to their death, the way the woman's head squelches open like a watermelon catches viewers off guard. Number 2. Eating a cooked breast in Fresh. In Fresh, a desperate romantic, Noah, has a chance encounter with a hunk called Steve at the supermarket and falls for him instantly. When the pair head to a cabin for the weekend, Noah discovers Steve isn't as sweet as he seems. In reality, he's a cannibal who sells female body parts on the black market, with Noah being his latest victim. Now, the whole concept of wolfing down human flesh is understandably vile. But what really sells the cannibalistic scenes in Fresh is not the visuals, but the audio. When you hear Steve grinding bones, cleaving an eyeball, or munching on a girl's buttock, you can almost feel the meat swirling around your own mouth. The worst part has to be when Noah is forced to dine with Steve to gain his trust while she prepares to escape. To ensure he doesn't become suspicious of her intentions, Noah gorges on a cooked human breast. As you hear the squishing sounds while she pretends she's delighted to taste human meat, it's hard not to feel sick. Number 1. That scene in Suspiria. The 2018 remake of Suspiria takes place in a dance academy, which secretly serves as a witch coven. Even though it's debatable whether the remake is superior than the original, there's no question the recent adaptation is more disturbing. Although there are plenty of ghastly scenes, nothing scars viewers more than that scene. After one dancer, Olga, questions the matron's intentions, she storms off and gets locked in the dance room. The witches then perform a spell where the dance movements of the main character, Susie, causes Olga's body to contort horrifically. This scene goes on for over 3 minutes, forcing viewers to witness Olga's slow, drawn-out death from start to finish. You have to watch the poor girl's bones popping out of their sockets, her jaw dislocating so she can't even scream, and her losing control over her bodily functions. When Susie finishes her dance, Olga is left as a crumbled heap on the ground, writhing and twitching. Just when you thought she was put out of her misery, the witches begin gleefully pronging her with hooks until the last remnants of life leave her body. And that concludes our list. Pretty gruesome stuff, huh? If you think we missed something, then do let us know in the comments down below. And while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe and tap that notification bell. Also, head over to Twitter and follow us there, and I can be found across various social medias just by searching Ellie Littlechild. I've been Ellie with What Culture. I hope you have a magical day, and I'll see you real soon.